Good morning. How are you all doing this morning? Wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm doing fabulous too. I was telling Julia and Paula this morning, I am on the verge of having a new grandbaby. Tomorrow, little fellow is going to be born, at least he's going to be induced tomorrow, so he will be born in the next 48 hours after that unless they reschedule. And we're all over the moon. So just so you know, we're doing really well. Welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. Those of you online, you're very welcome to be with us here this morning too. Bring your friends, bring your neighbors. Everybody's welcome. I'm Reverend Mary Murray Shelton. I'm the community spiritual leader here. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this morning's celebration service. So the first thing we do on Sunday morning is welcome each other. So I'm going to invite you to stand and walk around, say hi to everybody, introduce yourselves to anyone you don't know, welcome people back you haven't seen in a while, and for those of you who are online, take a moment to welcome yourself and get yourself a cup of coffee. We'll be right back with you to sing the morning song in just a moment. Great. We have Amy Steinberg with us on video this morning in her jazzy, unique kind of way. The songs that we're doing with her for the opening and closing are songs that we've sung with her many times before, so we know them really well. She's in Asheville, North Carolina, and she actually grew up in Boston and started taking singing and whatnot when she was 4 years old. Started studying singing and theater and everything else. And so she's pretty fun and a little out there. So please stand and let's enjoy Amy Steinberg this morning with I Light Up the World. Yes, if you can stand, stand. Those of you at home, stand up.
It's me, Amy Steinberg. So happy to be with you. We've done this one of mine before. It's so easy and it's so uplifting. So I hope that it does for you what it does for me. I light up the world. I light up the world with my light. 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 It's so easy. Sing it with me. I light up the world with my light. 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 Now I want you to turn to somebody and sing you. You light up the world with your light. 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 And now we sing together as a community. We light up the world with our light. 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 Then we sing like this. We go, we light it up, 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 we light up the world. Light it up, we 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 light it up, light up the world. I light up the world with my light. Come on. I light up the world with my light. I light up the world with my light. I light up the world with my light. Come on, let's light it up today.
Let's
Thanks
light
for
it up
having me
today.
with you.
All right. So, having had the opportunity to sing and say good morning, we turn within. I'm going to invite you to silence your cell phones, and I'm going to invite our morning platform practitioner, Reverend M. Louise, up to do the opening for us now. Yes, I think so.
Well, as we all settle in and know that we are here together, open and knowing that we are the beloveds, that each one of us is an expression of the divine today and always. And I just claim for this wonderful time together that we have as we talk about will and willingness and opening to that loving presence that is available within each one of us. For we are that expression of it. And so as we open today to receive the blessing of being here together, each one of us, what a joy to be here together. And I know that we are absolutely lifted and inspired as we just sink into that receptive feeling of what wonderful thing are we learning today about the joy of being filled with Spirit, the joy of knowing that that divine presence is always with us, the relaxation of feeling confident and loved in every single moment. And I know that this is the truth about us. And I am so grateful for this. And so I just accept this knowing with such gratitude. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, M. Louise.
I've been in bondage. I've been held back. I've been imprisoned by thoughts of fear and lack. And I have had anger, and I've had guilt. These are the bricks on which my life's been built. But I'm free to turn it around. Yes, I'm free to turn it around. We are all free to turn it around. Free to look up instead of looking down. I get so tired of looking down. But see, I've been attracted to negative thought. And I get so distracted. Oh, I do. I get so distraught. But see, I know that I'm responsible for my own life. Oh, ha. I gotta lift my chin up and look to the light. Oh, yes, I'm free to turn it around. Did you know? Yes, I'm free to turn it around. Yeah, we are all free to turn it around. No more, I said, no more looking down, no more looking down, 'cause I've turned it around. Yeah, I'm turning it around. Yeah.
Amy. Yeah, let's turn it around. So we're into a grand rising this year, which is actually taking us to another level, being willing to step up to another level. That's not always an easy thing to do. This month we've been talking about going deep and rising high. So I talked about going deep first, what it means to go within, become grounded, pay attention to what's inside of us. And then I talked about standing on that foundation that we've created from that grounding, standing on that holy ground, knowing that we carry that holy ground with us wherever we go, because that's who we are, and that's what we are. And then beginning to rise in God from that place where we're grounded, we're centered, we have our platform to stand on, and rising from there with that sense of embodied purpose. And so today, I'm talking about the difference between will and willingness. When I was in the School of Ministry, one of our instructors was talking to us about the process of being in ministry. And he said, you're going to find that two things are very important, will and willingness. And you have to know when to use each of those. And I would think probably now, having been in ministry for coming on to 40 years, that willingness is more important. Will has its role, and you've got to have it. There are times when you have to say no. But at the same time, being open and willing and not too rigid is really important to any kind of work that we do or relationships that we have in the world. That's not always easy for us. We get, I think, comfortable. We get settled. We feel like we've figured out how to do certain things, how to live our lives in certain ways. And so those become rote. We don't think about them anymore. We just do those things. The challenge with that is that that becomes a boundary of our life that we don't go beyond. So whatever we've established as our safety zone, I know how to do this, been around a long time, I know what works and what doesn't work, I know myself. There are no surprises. There's very little spontaneity. There's no opportunity, really, to find ourselves in situations where we have to consider responding differently. And that, it's a kind of poverty. So I can remember being kind of distressed when one of our ministers said at a summer conference a long time ago something about people want to be settled, and their only hope is that they remain unsettled. That really bothered me, because I was particularly wanting to be settled at that moment when I was listening to that, and to feel secure and safe. Can you relate to that? Wanting to feel that way, wanting to feel like I knew what was going to come about. I could expect certain things from life. It was, in a way, a little predictable. And that was good, because I could manage those things, and I could have confidence that I could deal with them. The difficulty in that is that it becomes more challenging to let in something that might lift us up to the next level, a new way of doing something, a new idea, a new perception, new information. And when we are so completely wed to the way that we're used to, we lock ourselves into that place, and whatever develops next, we resist it. We don't like it. We complain about it. We try to go back. It doesn't really work. Life goes ever forward. We don't go backward even when we'd like to. And so if we don't want to just sit there and kind of get stale, it becomes imperative that we let a certain amount of newness come into our lives to challenge us and lead us into new understandings, new ways of doing things. So I want to invite you to look at those places where you're really comfortable and sure. I don't want to do this either. But I think that's a clue right there. Look into the places that we feel really comfortable and really sure about things, and just allow ourselves to consider, what if? What if there's more? What if there's better? What if there's another way that's even more in alignment with how I want to be and how I want the world to be and how I want my life to be? What would happen if I did that? Story of a woman who really wanted to have control over things. She was complaining to a friend of hers that she hadn't gotten any letters or calls or any communication from her son since he started college. And her friend nodded and listened, and then she said, "There's a way to change that." "Really?" The woman said, "How?" She said, "Just write to him and say, 'Here's $100, spend it however you like.'" And that'll make him call or write. And the mother goes, "How would that work?" She said, "That's simple. Don't include the money." A little manipulative and controlling, right? Probably effective, which means that if it worked once, she might be inclined to do it that way again, something like that, to get that sort of response that she wants. We like to find ways in our lives to move people to perceive us in a particular way, or to perceive a proposal we're offering in a particular way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is useful for us to consider what it would be like to be totally willing to let whatever it is stand or fall on its own merits, including us, and see what the response is. Because when we're not trying to control it, it could be even better than we thought, better than we imagined. Sometimes when we're applying our willpower, what we're doing is we are controlling or trying or wanting to control a situation as much as possible, which usually means that we are dug in and holding on as tight as we can. We may appear to be agreeing to something, like this guy with his fingers crossed behind his back. Clearly, he doesn't mean whatever it is he's saying or doing to whomever he's speaking, right? We know that fingers crossed means it's not really true, or I don't really mean it. So we're pretending sometimes that we're okay with something, or that we want to do something. You know, I won't ask you to raise your hands, but I know there's a certain number of us that want to say yes whenever anybody asks us for something or asks us to do something. We feel like we should say yes, even if we don't want to. And sometimes that is a covert way of sabotaging the whole thing that we've agreed to. We've got our fingers crossed, in essence. We're saying, yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Not. So Eric Hoffer said once, you can never get enough of what you don't need to make you happy. You can never get enough of what you don't need to make you happy. And what that implies to me is that we think we know what's going to make us happy, and so we go toward that. It's like one of the first practitioners I had when I first started in my first church said to me once that a fellow had come to him and said, "I want you to treat for me to get a certain amount of money so I can buy a new car." And this practitioner said to him, well, now I'm confused. Do you want the money or do you want the car? Because if you treat for the car, then the way comes with it. You might get the money, somebody might buy it for you, somebody might give it to you, you might win it. But if you say you want the money to buy a car, you shut all those other windows and doors down. And that was a great clarification for his client and also for me, because it helped me recognize something that I knew and something that we all know, which is that the universe does not require that we lead it step by step to what we want. It's as if we think we know the how, and the creative law, the presence of God, the divine creative impulse needs not only the specific end result we want to experience, but that we should work out all the steps to get it there so that we approve of how that happens. And that's putting an awful lot more work, and ineffective, I might add, on ourselves. Because what happens with the creative law is it gets pulled this way and that way as you give it this direction and then that direction and then some other direction. Dr. Kathy Ann Lewis said one time, talking about dating, she said, first you treat that the person is cute. And then you treat that you enjoy your date with them. And then you treat that they're a good kisser. And then and you go through all this, and all you want is to be in a relationship that makes you joyous and happy and you're mutually fulfilled. But you go through all these little steps thinking that this has to be just right, and then that has to be just right. And it's kind of like Ernest Holmes saying, walking on the beach at Asilomar and saying, gravity, hold me down. Gravity, hold me down. For every step, gravity, hold me down. He said it was a lot of work, but it was effective. But see, you're wasting energy on that kind of stuff because the universe wants to produce abundantly for us. The whole universe is here to produce abundantly for us. And if we had the willingness to realize how loved we are, then we would be able to let more of that goodness in. Instead, we're kind of misusing this creative power by trying to control every single step along the way. Is this making sense, what I'm saying? Yeah? So we have to understand the role of will, because willpower is important, but not necessarily always in the way that you might think. So Thomas Fuller said, nothing is easy to the unwilling. That's right, because it all becomes an uphill struggle, because every little thing that happens that's not exactly in alignment with what we want, we're not willing to go there. And that means we're always struggling with this push-pull kind of a thing. Pilar Gerasimo wrote an article called Exchanging Willpower for Willingness, in which she said, I am choosing to engage willingness because, in my experience, my will has not always been my best ally in creating positive change. In fact, leaning too heavily on my will often brings out the most negative and self-critical in me. And research suggests that this is true for many of us. And it's true. I went and looked at some of the research that was done that really, they tested people in a variety of different ways to see if having that open willingness was different than having a set idea. And every time they found out that those who were willing got better results than those who had a set idea. So our willingness is a huge gift for us in moving ourselves in the direction that we want to experience. It is saying, yes, I need help. I request help. I accept help. I'm willing to be loved. I'm willing to be supported. I'm willing to be open and curious and vulnerable and allow it to come to me rather than trying to be in control of it. Well, that's the thing about, I a lot of times will ask a group of people, is it easier for you to give or receive? Most people say it's easier for them to give. My suspicion about that is that it's easier for us to give because we're in control. The receiver is not in control. And so what that does in not, being willing to play both ends of that, being both giving and open and receptive, is that we don't allow the universe to give us all of the gifts that it has for us. We don't allow the universe to bring us the fullness of life that we want because we want to have things be comfortable and predictable. And so we don't know what's going on there. When we're willing, we find that we need to be more trusting of the universe. We need to have that mindset that says the universe is always for me, never against me. Whatever is happening is for my delight, for my learning, for my growth, for my support. Whatever it is, whatever it looks like, whatever I think it is, that's what it's here for. The universe is always here for me, not opposing me in any way. And it does mean holding our ideas or our visions a little more lightly. It's like Ram Dass saying, I have as many opinions as I ever had. I just don't take them very seriously anymore. It's like the bumper sticker that says, don't believe everything you think. I think I just called it a bumper stinker. And maybe that is a bumper stinker. Don't believe everything you think. Our minds can get really lodged on stuff. We don't have to always take that seriously. There is a part of us that can look at that and say, wow, really anchored on this one, aren't you? Okay, what are the other possibilities? Could we loosen the grip just a little bit over here? Let it be a little easier. Leo Buscaglia said, what we call the secret of happiness is no more a secret than our willingness to choose life. To choose life. And life means change. Life means adapting. Life means discovering it's not always as we thought it would be, and meeting it instead as it is. Ernest Holmes, our founder, wrote in This Thing Called You, one of my favorite books of his, this process is not so much a problem of will as it is one of willingness. The only important role the will plays in a decision is to keep the thought poised long enough to permit the law to operate. In other words, stay focused. He says this is not a prayer of beseechment, but a recognition or acknowledgement of right action. When we let go of a spiritual mind treatment, the last step in that prayer process is release. Amen means so be it. And we say, and so it is, like in the present tense now. And so it is. We release the prayer to the law. We declare it accomplished. We let the law do its work. That means we have to let go at that point. We have to let go. Ernest Holmes said that a practitioner's work can be effective only to the degree that the client is willing to let go of the idea or the belief or the deeply held emotional attachment to an idea that isn't really true. But being very attached to it, it looks true to us. We experience it as true. And therefore, to us, it is true. So it's hard to let go. But when a client is willing to be open to the possibility that there is a larger truth beyond what they're clinging to, they might be able to let it go and allow the practitioner's consciousness to help support them in knowing the truth for them. And they can lean on that practitioner's faith, that practitioner's knowing. But in order to do that, any one of us, whether we're doing prayer work for ourselves or we're receiving it, we have to be able to let go of what's in the way. And sometimes we're more attached to what's in the way than we are wanting what it is we want to be experiencing. Martin Buber, the Jewish mystic, said, as we live, we grow, and our beliefs change. They must change. I think we should live with this constant discovery. We should be open to this adventure in heightened awareness of living. The grand rising, right? We should stake our stake our whole existence on our willingness to explore and experience. If we become explorers in consciousness, if we become adventurers, then we're curious, we're eager, we're hungry for greater discovery, for going deeper, for rising higher, for experiencing all of it with more fullness, more color, more nuance, more detail, instead of being afraid of that and wanting to lock it in place in some way. The will, the work of the will is to hold our focus. Our conscious mind can decide what it is we want to experience, how we want our lives to grow, where we want to become more free, or what qualities we want to make stronger in ourselves. We can decide those things. And then, whether we're having a practitioner treat for us or we're doing that prayer work ourselves, the will, its job, is to keep our attention focused on where we want to go. When I wrote my book a lot of years ago, I talked about intention, the importance of intention being this balance between control and release. That an archer aiming at a target has to stay focused on that bullseye, on that target, where they want that arrow to go. They can't go, oh, squirrel, the arrow is going to go wherever, We do get distracted. We do get pulled off target emotionally, or because somebody upsets us and we get into this mental squirrel cage of offense and victimization and complaint. Anybody ever do that? I was doing that as I was falling asleep last night. It took me a long time to fall asleep because I had to keep dragging my mind away from reviewing past hurts. And this morning I was thinking about that. It's like, my God, that happened 50 years ago. What difference does it make? What in the world was my mind spinning on that for? I have no idea. But I had to start finding something else for it to try and focus on so I could get it off that squirrel cage. Because the brain, the mind, the thoughts, they will go on automatic pilot. Anybody ever get an earworm where you have a song stuck in your head? Anybody ever experience that? Sometimes I've got them for days at a time. One particular song. That happens with the brain. It will get onto something, and then it just keeps rolling. And now, really, if we're meditators, that rolling of the brain, our job is to notice it, and then put our attention somewhere else. Don't make yourselves wrong. Don't make yourselves feel guilty. There's no shame in that. Is what the brain does. So we notice it, but we don't take it seriously. That's the ideal. We don't always have that kind of space where we can step back, actually, and get that perspective. But when we do, it's very helpful because we know that those thoughts are going to do what they do, and we don't have to really be paying attention to them. We can shift our awareness. So that song may still be playing in the background, but you're busy doing something else. We want to maintain our chosen focus. So when we pull back that arrow, at some point, we have to let the arrow go. If it's ever going to get to the target, we have to let it go. And once we let it go, we don't have control over it anymore. That arrow, we hope, has the momentum to go to the target and to hit it where we wanted it to, where we aimed it to go. But we don't know. The wind might come up. Something might come in front of it that knocks it off course. We might hiccup at the last minute as we let go and it goes off someplace else, something we have no control over. Now we could take the arrow, instead of putting it in the bow, we could take the arrow and run like a madman to try and stick it in the target. It's not very satisfying and it wouldn't really work because it doesn't have the impetus to actually stay there. So the only thing we can do with our intention is to have the will to focus and the willingness to let it go and let it be what it's going to be. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, nobody really heard what he said, or whether he came back to the disciples that were there with him several times, or once, or not at all. we get the idea that they went up there and he went to pray. That was a holy mountain. He went up there to pray. And apparently he was scared, because one of the things that was observed is that his sweat was like drops of blood. Now, that doesn't mean he literally was sweating blood, but it gives us an image in that Hebrew storytelling mode that lets us know that he was stressed to the max. And yet, when Judas came and kissed him and they took him, he went. He didn't struggle. When Peter tried to cut off the ear, or did cut off the ear of one of the high priests or whoever it was that came to arrest Jesus, he instead, Jesus, healed it and said basically, no more of that. There was some part of him that may well have said, I'd rather not do this. I'd really rather not do this. And if this is what I have to do, then okay. So there is that will versus willingness kind of experience going on, that surrender to the unfoldment. We are confronted with that all the time, in miniature, in little ways. And what is best for us, if we can do it, is to recognize the role of the will so that we're actually using it correctly. We're putting it to its highest and best use in using it to keep us focused on what we want, so that we can actually find ourselves coming into balance. Now, imagine how much practice this woman has had with yoga in order to be able to do that. We won't even go into flexibility, but just to balance like that in that position. That requires practice. So too, we need practice. We need practice holding the focus. We need practice making the choice. We need practice on the things that are ours to do. At the same time, she doesn't know if water's going to come over her foot and startle her, if a bird is going to land on her head or her foot. She has no idea. She has to be willing to hold the position and kind of relax into it and allow it to be, allow the muscles to do their work. It can't be rigid. When we're learning yoga, we're often pretty rigid. Like if somebody bumped you, you'd go right over. We don't have the flexibility, the endurance yet. So we are all, in our way of growing in consciousness, learning how to keep our focus. And the more we do it, the easier it gets in general, but sometimes something comes up that's very difficult for us to face, and we find ourselves just as distracted and just as squirrel cagey in the brain as we ever were any other time. That's when we need a practitioner. So when we want to come to balance, we discover that we need both our willpower and our willingness to be in balance, but we need to understand what they're both for, because that is what allows us to experience all that the universe has for us. The amount of love that is available for every one of us from the infinite is more than we could want or imagine or hope for. Much more. Are we letting ourselves be loved? Are we willing to be that out of control to let God love us? What does it mean to be loved by an infinite presence? One that knows everything and loves us beyond anything we've ever done that we don't even approve of or want anybody to know about. And loves us right through all of that, sees through it, knows much better than we do who we really are. So in order to have the ability to go deep, to be grounded, and to rise up, we have to have that kind of balance. Thor Heyerdahl, remember Thor Heyerdahl and Kon-Tiki, the boat? It was a big wooden boat that he sailed across the ocean in, and people were so amazed. He talks about being in the service, being in the military. He says, I was in uniform for 4 years. And I know that heroism doesn't occur from taking orders, but rather from people who, through their own willpower and strength, are willing to sacrifice their lives for an idea. That whatever that idea is, whatever that principle is so important that they would be willing to die in order to help that not be destroyed, whatever that was. The willpower that takes, balanced with willingness. And so when we get into this place, we have the opportunity to go deep, to then be grounded, to recognize that we are supported by the universe, we are loved by God, to stand on that, like Daniel in the lion's den, and to rise up, to let ourselves go higher, to soar, actually, in consciousness while we deal with the things that we experience in our lives. It requires willpower and willingness, letting go, softening. Ernest Holmes also says in his great book that we use for our text, The Science of Mind, the only willpower used in the process, if it could be called willpower, is a determination to keep the thought clear, to think about what ought to happen rather than about what ought not to happen, to be actively aware of harmony rather than discord, to believe that good will always overcome evil as light dissipates darkness. Now that's a pretty strong, clear statement of what willpower is for and what it isn't for. It's about focus. It's about maintaining the choice and the focus on that vision, no matter how the appearances around us might look. There is a Sufi story that I want to conclude with this morning. It comes from Idris Shah, and it's called The Tale of the Sands, although this is just one version of it. It's been around in many languages and many cultures. A stream from its source in the mountains passed through the countryside until it reached the sands of the desert. As it had crossed every barrier, the stream tried to cross this one. But as fast as it ran into the sand, its waters disappeared. It was convinced that its destiny was to cross the desert, and yet there was no way. A hidden voice coming from the desert itself whispered, "The wind crosses the desert, so can the stream." And the stream objected that it was dashing itself against the sand and getting absorbed, that wind could fly, and that was why it could cross a desert. By hurtling yourself in the accustomed way, you cannot get across. You will either disappear or become a marsh. You must allow the wind to carry you to your destination. But how? By allowing yourself to be absorbed into the wind. Well, this idea was not acceptable to the stream. It did not want to lose its individuality. And having lost it, how was the stream to know it could be regained? Can you relate to any of this? The wind, said the sand, performs this function. It takes up water, carries it over the desert, and lets it fall. Falling as rain, the water again becomes a river. How can I know this is true? If you do not believe it, you cannot become more than a quagmire. And that could take many years and is certainly not the same as a stream. Can I not remain the same stream that I am today? You cannot in either case, the whisper said. Your essential part is carried and forms a stream again. You do not yet know which part of you is the essential one. And certain echoes began to arise in the thoughts of the stream. Dimly, he remembered a state in which he, or some part of him was it, had been held in the arms of the wind. He also remembered, or did he, that this was the right thing to do. So the stream raised his vapor into the welcoming arms of the wind, which gently bore it upward, letting it fall softly when it reached the roof of a mountain miles away. Because he had had doubts, the stream could remember and record the details of this experience, thinking, now I have learned my true identity. The stream was learning. The sand whispered, we see it happen day after day. And we, the sands, because as we, the sands, extend from the riverside to the mountain. And that is why it is said that the way in which the stream of life continues on its journey is written in the sands. This story is a lovely reminder to us that the universe is there for us. That in order to allow God's love, in order to allow the universe to support us in all the ways that it is there to do, we need to surrender into it, to be willing, to be loved, to receive that support, to learn, to change, and to find out what is the essential part in each of us. Namaste. Thank you. Let's take a moment now to turn within and anchor this in prayer, knowing there is one presence and one power, that infinite, unlimited presence that is an energy, an intelligence, a beingness of boundless love, of infinite wisdom, of infinite generosity. And we arise within that one. We are in the heart of the divine, a part, a cell of its very being. We contain all of it, and we are surrounded by and supported by all of it at the same time. Today, I know that every one of us here, and everyone anywhere who needs a prayer today, is part of this one. Regardless of whether we know it or not, or they do or not, this oneness is here for us, loving, supporting, and bringing all that we allow. So I claim for all of us today willingness, openness, surrender of heart and mind and consciousness into the trust, into the rising, into the stepping up in spirit to that higher level and experiencing the greater yet to be that is within and all around us, allowing it to be revealed. In this very day, I claim a clue comes for every one of us that opens a window into this, and that we are present to it, receive it, and allow it to move the needle just a bit, or maybe more. With great gratitude, we embrace this possibility and this willingness in ourselves. We let this prayer go into that ever willing, always affirming and saying yes, creative law of mind and spirit. This is our direction to the law. Let it be. And so we let it go into the law. And together we say, and so it is. Yes. Please stand and join me now in the morning affirmation. And you at home join us as well. I am here to get it right, not to be right. Knowing this, I apply my will to steeping myself in the highest good my mind can envision. I choose to live in peace and plenty. I'm willing to be changed to allow this good to come forward. I am grateful, and so it is. Thank you. You may be seated. This is our time of sacred giving, and our very presence here is a gift as well. I invite our ushers to come forward now in preparation for this. If you are online this morning and you'd like to make a donation to Golden Gate, you can text a dollar amount to the telephone number on the screen and just follow the directions. And that's also true here in the room. And for those of you that give automatically, if you are on some kind of auto tithe or something like that, recognize that that too is a gift that we are blessing this morning. So we are blessing everything that has been given to Golden Gate this past week and is being given now as we use this prayer of blessing together. So place your hands over your heart as we say, "This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time." And so it is. Go ahead.
One step, one step, yeah. Old-time religion is a box I do not fit in. I am metaphysical, I am transcendent. Change a situation by changing your mind. Raise the vibration by knowing you are divine. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I surrender to the presence of God in me. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I'm practicing the presence of the goddess in me. Oh. What do you believe? You've got to know your truth. Pure potential possibility, that is you. When you stand in opposition, you perpetuate the thing. What you resist persists, so let love be what you bring. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I surrender to the presence of God in me. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I am practicing the presence of the goddess. Whoa, make a mental path, one step, just do. Surrender to the presence of the God in you. Make a mental path, one step, just do. Practicing the presence of the goddess in you. Follow your intuition and the passion that you got. Be pulled by your vision, don't get pushed by your thoughts. Everything experienced is energetic, so be aware of energy you give and you get it. Out of the routine, slip into observer state. Change your mind by changing habits, choose a different way. Say oh yes to your highest and your best, 'cause what you desire you could straight up manifest. Yeah. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I surrender to the presence of God in me. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. Practicing the presence of the make a mental path, one step, just do. Surrender to the presence of the God in you. Make a mental path, one step, just do. Practicing the presence of the goddess in you. One step, one step, it only takes one step, one step, all it takes one. Do not be afraid, you have the power in you. Do not be afraid, you got the power in you. Take one step, one step.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So now, on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, we do, all of us here and everybody online, we do accept this offering with great gratitude, and we send it out into the world with this job to seed more willingness all over the planet. And so it is. If you happen to be with us for the first time this morning, online or in the room, well, you can't do this if you're online, but I'll give you another instruction in a moment. The table right back here is our welcome table. There are all sorts of things you can pick up there to take with you, information and goodies like that, and there are welcome packets. So you can pick up a welcome packet, take the blue card out, fill it out and give it to Amanda, who's waving it back there, and she's going to give you a little book called Nourishing Thoughts, which is a tiny little book you can carry around with you easily that's filled with affirmations for when your mind starts to drag you off in this direction or that to help you get back on track. That's our thank you for coming and our invitation to come again often. And for those of you who are online, if you let us know that this was your first Sunday with us, we'll mail you one of these little books as a thank you. So we look forward to having you here with us when you are in the area in Marin County, California. I also want to say thank you to everybody who was in sacred service this morning. We were kind of short on the setup team this morning, but you'll notice when you came in, everything was done, yeah? The folks just pulled together and got everything done and hopefully didn't injure themselves in the process. So I'd like to acknowledge everybody. Please give them all a hand for what they did today. Our membership class begins today. It's going to be online on Zoom at 12:30. So those of you that are taking the class, grab something to eat quick and come and get online with us. Karen Frost, our Leadership Council President, and I are going to be facilitating this. You'll notice that we did change one of the dates, and we'll have to clear that with the class. Because I'm going to be away for a couple of Sundays, Karen is going to take one of the Sundays, and we made it later because we had to move the new member reception and the new member welcome Sunday to a little bit later in the month. So we'll give you more information about that as we get that anchored in place, but that's the deal at the moment. Plan to be here on the 22nd to welcome our new members, because that will be New Member Sunday. It will also be Bring a Guest Sunday, so we can welcome our new members with a lot of pizzazz. So you can bring a guest who's somebody that used to come here, or somebody that's never come here. Bring your hairdresser, bring your uncle, well, no, I won't say that. But anyway, let's fill it up and really welcome our new members. And the great joy, too, is that, I don't know if he's going to be here, but one of our new members actually does not live in the area. And he's decided he wants to be a member because he's visited here often enough that he'd like to be counted as a distance member of Golden Gate. So that's very delightful. We're really pleased about that, too. In case you're watching, that's you, Bob. And Leslie is going to say something. Leslie Giannetti, one of our prayer practitioners, one of our favorites here. She's got a workshop coming up, and she's going to tell you about it right now.
Well, Reverend Mary said she admitted that she doesn't always have a harmonious passage of thought through her mind. And that's a little sticking point where there may be some grief. And we may work together in this workshop about healing this for our wholeness and to be free, to embody freedom as our divine birthright. Whether we forgive ourselves or someone else, there's a deep connection within each one to the universal life. And to embody and embrace that as our divine birthright. So if this sounds interesting to you, please come and talk to me after today's service.
Thanks. Great. Thank you, Leslie. And also, there is a sign-up sheet back on the events table that you can sign up if you're interested in participating in Leslie's workshop. Also, just to keep this in front of you, we do have a meeting coming up. Right now, Reverend Karen Fry is actually traveling with a couple of different groups, back to back. And so we'll do a Zoom meeting with her when she gets back home. But I just want to let you know that Zoom meeting is coming. So if you signed up and let us know that you were interested, or sent an email saying you were interested in our sacred travel for 2025 later in the year, we would want to be able to invite you to that. So just to have you keep that on your radar so you don't forget to come. Now, how many of you remembered, because I didn't, so how many of you remembered when you came in this morning to envision the keyboard over here and our new music director sitting behind the keyboard on the bench there. How many of you remembered? Yeah. I had an interesting conversation this week, a Zoom conversation with someone who is interested in the position. So he's got something going until the end of September, and we've got some conversations coming about what might come next in terms of him checking us out and us checking him out. And I also have a phone conversation coming up this next week with somebody else who's also interested. So the universe is moving. This is really good. So I want you to keep seeing this. When you think of Sunday morning, see the keyboard over here, seeing our energetic new music director just having a great time with all of us and us loving it. There are 2 dates coming up, one in September, one in October, for our San Francisco Marin Food Bank service. The September date is, I think, the 3rd Tuesday. Is that right? The 3rd Tuesday of September instead of the 2nd Tuesday. But both of them are from noon to 2. And Ellen Nicosia, you have her right here in the front row this morning, is the person to talk to if you'd like to be on the team to do that. It's only 2 hours once a month, and you only have to sign up for whichever one you'd like to be a part of. So we encourage you to talk to Ellen and find out what's entailed in that so that she can put your mind at rest if you're worried it might be too hard for you. I'm going to be teaching a class coming toward the end of September on 6 Tuesday nights, beginning on September 24th. It will be from 6 o'clock to 8:30 on Zoom. And this is, there's a flyer that you got this morning when you came in for it. It's called Consciousness and the Creative Process. So this is leaning into the creative law and understanding more how it works and what it is and how you use it as an individual. It is based on Thomas Troward's book, The Creative Mind in the Individual. No, The Creative Law. Creative process in the individual. That's what it is, the creative process in the individual. And that's the book that you'll need too. So on your flyer, it gives you the details, and I encourage you to consider it. It's going to be interesting and fun. If you're a Troward fan, you'll love it. If you're not sure if you're able to be a Troward fan, you might want to try it anyway. But this class does have a prerequisite. If you've taken foundations, you're good. So you can sign up for this class, and there is a sign-up sheet back on the events table for that. Also prayer. We always treasure prayer. So Joyce is available at the prayer table. Frank is just there for decoration this morning, but Joyce is there. Joyce is there to serve this morning. If you are up for a prayer, if you know there's something bugging you, don't carry it back home with you. That's like reaffirming the mind in the squirrel cage. Go and see Joyce, get a prayer this morning before you go home. And you can always put a written prayer request into the box over there as well. So right now I want to invite our practitioners to surround the room so that we can go ahead and bring our service to a close right now with lots of love. Everybody take a breath. Now, each time you breathe in, imagine that you are welcoming more love from the universe. And each time you breathe out, you're letting go of any stuckness in your consciousness, just letting it go. You don't have to examine the garbage before you take it out, just let it go. Breathe in the love. Breathe out any old stuckness. As you listen, I know there is an infinite presence of light, that rich, full, free, abundant presence of the divine is always everywhere in every single person. So I know it's in me. I know it's in us. Omnipresent is fully present everywhere, always. In this knowing, all is well. I accept great and wonderful goodness into our lives this week. Divine delight, joyous surprises, love, an experience of peaceful fulfillment and gratitude, appreciation, joy. We receive and accept and allow this joy to root itself in us regardless of appearances, because we know and accept the truth. We are willing to be loved, to be supported, to see the good, and praise it. So knowing this is the truth of us individually and as one, I let this prayer go into that creative law of mind and spirit, feeling free and knowing it is accomplished now. And together we say, and so it is, yes. Please stand and join us for the closing blessing and song now. As we say this together, I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for spirit and all people and I are one eternally, and so it is. And we're accepting this right now, so sing this song with enthusiasm.
Thank you so much for having me, Golden Gate. I know that something wonderful is happening to us right now, and I hope this week is amazing for you. And I hope you'll sing with me this Harold Payne tune. It goes like this.
We know this one.
Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. You got it? Something wonderful, yeah. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. And I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my body, in my soul. I can feel it in my soul, in my heart. I can feel it in my heart. And it won't let go. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now.
Let it in.
One more time, come on. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my body, in my soul. I can feel it in my soul, yeah. I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go, and it won't let go. Something wonderful. Let me hear you shout out something wonderful that's going on today. Something wonderful that's happening for me is the painting that I'm working on behind me. It doesn't look that great yet, but it's going to be wonderful. The one with the flowers coming out of the figure's head back there is going to be good. Something wonderful is being created in our lives right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. One more time, come on. Something wonderful, hey, come on, clap it out. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful. Have an amazing week. I love you.